And welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. Finally, I know it was internet computer issue, something going on. Sorry for the delay. Sometimes it happens. You know, you think you're totally prepared, and then suddenly you're not. You know, the one time it was Skype updating forever, and the computer was updating the one time. We have things like this. You know, we have all this great technology, and then all this crazy crap happens, right? So,
well, it is about ghosts. Come on now.
Well, sure enough, it is our haunted channel. So, again, welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I am Mike Ricksecker, author and ghost story. With me, as always, the lovely Vanessa Hogle. Thank you, Vanessa, for being with us again. And, of course, the beautiful chat Shananigator, Shana, down in the chat room. And I know some of you have already been down there in the chat room, patiently waiting, so we'll give a few shout outs to those who've been patiently waiting. Of course, there is Shana, and there's Ether Shadow, Tammy Sifford, Robert White, our friend from Australia, Danelle Daywood, Emma Beshik, Tammy Heitzman's down there, the Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast, which I was on just the other week, Carrie Parrish, Charmy Vapes and Fly, and Lynn's White is in the house, and so is Vanessa. Scott Latea, thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll do some more shout outs as we go along. So thank you, Mad Hatters, for joining us tonight. And I do have a drink with me. It's not coffee tonight.
Is it a drink?
It's green tea. It's green tea. I got a big jug of it just in case.
Some of that through
you never know. So it's a Pure Leaf unsweetened green tea. So I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, and so
that'd be good.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's good. It's actually you know, the green tea is good for you, even unsweetened. It's fine. I know people like a little bit of sweetness at least added to it, but I've grown quite accustomed to it. So, good stuff.
I put a little honey in it.
Yeah, well, and there's the honey green tea, and I know Shana really likes the tropical green tea from Wendy's, so which is actually Honest Green Tea, is that brand. So, I like the Pure Leaf. It's good. Oh, and then we also, of course, have Ghosty. We cannot forget Ghosty. If you've not gotten your Ghosty yet, go get your Ghosty. So, Ghosty's been around. We did some Where's Ghosty pics recently on the Ghosty Facebook page. Shana posted a bunch of Ghosty pics to her Facebook wall the other day from our weekend excursion, doing all kinds of stuff. We hit a number of cemeteries. We had investigations this past weekend. Did a lot of driving, and so she took a lot of Ghosty pics. And so we'll actually get those on the Ghosty Facebook page when I sit down and have a few minutes and post them out there as well. She's got them on her Facebook page right now, though. So that's Ghosty. So HauntedRubMedia.com. Just click on the shop link. It'll take you right to Ghosty. So.
Oh, and people are asking about the T-shirts too. We need to see.
Yes. I saw that. Who was asking? Well, a number of people have been asking about them. And so they were shipped out today. So hopefully by next week we will have the T-shirts available. So and for those who have forgotten what the actual T-shirt looks like, here we go. There it is. So that is the T-shirt art for the Mad Hatters, Edge of the Rabbit Hole.
Love it.
Yep. So, and we may do more down the road and have other T-shirt concepts and ideas and all of that great stuff. Do shirts ship international? Yes, we can make international shipments available. We have been shipping Ghosty to so far to Canada and the UK. So and we can do it to other countries as well. Just let me know what your country is, and I'll make sure to set up the shipping properly for that country. I did have when we first started the Ghosties, there was an order for one. I think it was Canada before I had Canada set up, and so it did the shipping wrong. So just let me know, and I'll make sure that the shipping is calculated correctly for the shirts. So
Absolutely, and I need mine. So
yes,
we'll talk later.
Yes,
Anyway,
yeah, Vanessa needs her Ghosty and her shirt, and yeah.
You know, right? I'll yell at you later.
So, and yes, I should add. Robert wants me to add that I should add that the Ghosties are glow in the dark. They do glow in the dark. So not like really bright, but they do glow. So
the easy ghost to find. You know, I mean, you're never gonna not be able to find it, right?
Well, what's really cool is when I'm traveling and I've made a stop at, you know, like a service station or whatever, you got the bright lights coming down at night onto Ghosty, and then I hit out on the highway, and then I got this glowing green Ghosty right on the dashboard. It's pretty cool. I've taken a couple pics.
I love it. I think we should dive right in. I've written down 4 questions, Mike.
Go ahead. You know, let me intro the topic real quick, and if you want to hit some questions, go ahead. Okay, so tonight's topic, this was kind of inspired by our investigation this past weekend, which is haunted people and spiritual attachments. A lot of times when we go on investigations, we discover that's not necessarily the house that is haunted, but one of the people that's there in the house that is haunted that happens to have a spiritual attachment. And, you know, there could be, and there's a lot of different varieties, a lot of different cases, you know, where, you know, this person is carrying this attachment with them, and it seems like wherever they go, they're having some sort of, you know, haunted experience. And then when they leave, the place suddenly isn't haunted. Although this place that we were at this weekend does have its own paranormal activity, but what the girl was experiencing is something completely different than what we had observed. So it seems more, and we're not drawing any conclusions yet, but our preliminary is kind of like, we're thinking she's haunted. So that's kind of what has inspired this, and, you know, I've dealt with this on a number of cases, and I know Vanessa has as well. So, and I know Vanessa's been collecting questions on this, so Vanessa, go ahead. Dive right into the questions.
I wanted to address first, Charlotte Motha actually contacted me today from Sri Lanka, and she was asking about, you know, can one attachment stop the other because of the particular situation that I have going on here, because I have whom we will only refer to as Ralph.
Ralph, okay.
Ralph, I hate that name, and I'm not a fan of his, so that is what I have named him, because I won't call him what his actual name is.
You know,
not saying
my grandfather's nickname was Ralph, and they ended up naming the dog Ralph. So you've greatly insulted my family now.
Shit. Okay. All right. She was asking me why I had moved everything into my bedroom and why he is not allowed in here, because it was just redonkulous when I was in the dining room. Remember, it was always there. So, well, my grandma won't let him in here.
Okay.
It's that simple. She's that type of lady. He's not allowed in my bedroom, which is another reason also I try not to pass out on the couch anymore, because that's free reign out there for him, and he's not nice to me. But he is not allowed in here. And so that answers that question. Can an attachment or can a spirit know about another one? They don't always, but yes, they can. And can they keep one from bothering you? Maybe not 100%, but they can definitely put up boundaries. And she has done that. He can't cross that threshold.
Wouldn't that be more like a spirit guide that might be protecting you from
Well, it's
some
Annie.
sort of spiritual attachment?
Yeah.
And we were kind of talking a little bit about that last week.
Yeah. She's been with me a very long time. I was born on her birthday.
Okay.
And she died right before I was to turn 2. She died a month and about 8 days before I was to turn 2. She's my first spiritual connection. She's the first spirit I ever saw after they passed that I am aware of. So she's always been with me, here and there, but over the past 8 years, she's been quite prominent. Actually, no, let's go a little bit further. Shortly after Gray's birth, she's been with me. But especially after his father and I split up. She's always there, know. And people see her in here too. My friends do, they see her. But her attachment to me is familial, whereas Ralph's attachment to me is personal on a totally different level. So she knows that, and she is aware that she maybe can't keep him away completely, but she can stop him from going through that door. So that's why my computer is in here now. So I can do a show without having issues, So that addresses Charlotte's question, and also in a way addresses Brooke's question. She contacted me on Facebook as well and was asking about good and bad attachments, are they all negative? Because that's kind of mostly what you hear about is the negative ones, like Ralph. But no, obviously you can have good attachments. You can even have good attachments that aren't family members. You can have, a close friend. You can have an animal spiritual attachment that is a good attachment, that is looking out for you. Certain attachments can guide you. They can lead you in the right direction without affecting your free will. I have seen this firsthand. It actually happens with my dear friend Gwen and her papa, her dad. So,
right.
It is very possible that when you have those feelings that you're being led a certain way, that you're being led that way, not necessarily by a spirit guide or an angel or whatever, but by a family member who has your best interest at heart.
Yeah, so, could be a family member. I know, Vanessa, for you have the wolf.
I do. A big-ass bad one, too. I do. He's huge and white.
Would you call that wolf, what would you define? Would you call it a spirit attachment? Would you call it a spirit guide? Would you call it a familiar? Or are we trying to categorize things too much here?
I try not to categorize, and I think we have a need to do that. We need to compartmentalize.
Yeah, that's humans for you.
Yeah, for me, he came when I didn't know I needed him.
Okay.
And he stayed. And he also lets me get into trouble every now and then, because Vanessa got to learn her own lesson now. Come on, but he's never let me completely stray. And I would call him more of just my spirit animal. And he's huge and beautiful and solid white. So, and he's been seen by others. So I don't even feel crazy anymore. How about that?
It's funny you say that, because the next morning mug is actually, have you seen a ghost? You're not crazy.
Yay!
Yeah.
Good, because we're not nuts. Okay,
no, we're not. Nuts. It happens.
Yeah, I'm totally nuts in other areas. Be okay with that, okay? If I can admit it, you can love it.
Right.
But not in this area. In this area, I'm completely fucking sane. How sad is that? Okay, now Robert White also put a question out there about the most common object to get an attachment.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
I know, yeah.
That's a good question.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, really, if you think about it, a house is a large object. So would you consider that a haunted object, or would you just consider that a haunted building? I'm sure he's thinking more like something like, this type of object, like, a cup, or, maybe a photograph or a painting, or, I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know if anybody's ever statistically put that one together.
The one that I have found to be most common because people, back when I was first, coming out of the broom closet, they would bring me things, or or have me hold things just to see what I could get from it. Obviously, jewelry being one of the most prominent, specifically pendants and rings. Sometimes watches, like a pocket watch, able to get things off of that. But I find that something that would hold the most spiritual attachment is something that you focus the most of your emotion on. And again, that would be jewelry, dolls. Ironically enough, mirrors.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed. Because you have to think about how much
mirrors act in a lot of different ways. I mean, they can hold that spiritual energy like that, and they can also act as portals. So there's a lot of different properties with mirrors.
Absolutely. But mostly what you'll find attached to a mirror is a feminine spirit.
Okay, yeah.
Because you spend so much time, especially when you're talking about more antique mirrors and stuff, the vanities, the old vanities with the big round mirrors on them and everything. Woo, you can get some shit off of those. I am telling you, because women spend some time in front of that mirror. Me, not so much.
Yeah.
But they do.
We have a question straight out of the chat room. I know you have a list that you compiled earlier, but since it's up there right now, Joanne Rubino says, "Can my mom's doll, can she be attached to when she passed away? I have her doll, and the doll sometimes moves." So I would say yeah.
I would say absolutely yes. Do I feel that it is a permanent attachment? That she's constantly there? No. But that having been said, I believe that it is used as a way to comfort her. Okay. When the mother wants her to know that she is around, then she will use that doll as a vessel. But it's not as if she is in the doll. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so she hasn't channeled directly into the doll.
No,
it's not like Annabelle.
Yeah, it's not like Annabelle, which by the way was a fucking Raggedy Ann. It wasn't a
right.
Anyway,
it's Hollywood. They had to do,
Raggedy Ann scared the shit out of me.
Really? I had a Raggedy Andy. My sister had the Raggedy Ann. I had a Raggedy Andy, and I never was creeped out by it actually.
Those and sock monkeys. What is up with that? No, we don't do sock monkeys in my house.
Monkeys,
anyway,
right. I know how to scare you.
I know, right? But no, it's really. I think that they can be used more as a way to telepathically let somebody know that they're there. Hi, I'm still here. You know how much this meant to me. I'm allowing you to know that I'm here. This is the easiest way for them to do it. And I believe that is completely possible. I've seen it happen. It's happened to me. And a book of stories on people that's happened to. So it is definitely possible. I actually believe that's the case. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a stamp on it right there.
Just a couple side comments from the chat room. Carrie Parrish says that his spirits have been with him since his grandmother asked him to be near him when he was 16 years old. Shana commented that she had a mirror experience with a guy, saw him behind her when she was getting out of the shower. I've heard that story a few times, and how she had to put her foot down and say, no, you can't be in the bathroom when you're getting out of the shower. But she did see him in the mirror. So. Damn. Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks too, because they walk past my shower all the time, but then they leave when I get out. But they let me know they're fucking there while I'm showering. I tell you what, I don't like it.
So Ralph was hanging out in the shower with you?
Huh?
Ralph was hanging out in the shower with you?
No, it's not him.
Okay.
Yeah, it's different build, different hair, different demeanor.
Okay.
Very different demeanor. Okay, Paranormal Activity, this was the last question that I had a chance to write down. Okay. They asked about the reasons for attachments. Now, this is where it gets sketchy.
Yeah, there can be a lot of different reasons.
This is where it gets quite sketchy, because there can be a multitude of reasons for this. Like with my Grammy, it can be a familial, protective situation. With my wolf, it can be a protective and I'm going to kill you if you mess with her situation. With Ralph, it can be I'm going to make your life fucking miserable situation. and scare everybody off. It can be any one of those things or 10 things I didn't list. But it really depends on the situation, and you just kind of have to sit down and I hate to say it, but do the math, and figure out who it is, why they would be doing it, how long they've been doing it, what are the reasons behind it, what can you learn from it, and just where to go from there. So it can literally be any reason under the sun. It could be just because they're bored. True story.
Yeah.
Okay. It could be.
Sean Gilmore from Ectovision Paranormal, going back to the mirror, says the attachment that he had before would watch him from the mirrors in his home. So to this day he can't stand mirrors. So yeah, but like Vanessa was saying, could be a variety of reasons. It could be somebody, loved one that just wants to be near you and just kind of observing, hanging out. Sure, it could be some nasty attachment that's followed you home from somewhere, and we talk about all these, protecting yourself, going on investigations and what have you. But even if you go to some of these different historical sites, they have a number of entities that are hanging around there. So I have heard stories of people just touring a location and bringing something home.
You can go to Walmart and bring something home. And not just the nasty shit from the dressing rooms. It really is true. And what people need to realize is when you're talking about attachments, you need to look to yourself first. If it doesn't feel familiar, look to yourself first. Find out where you've been, what you've been doing, who you've spoken with, what your activities have been since you started feeling a certain way. What are your feelings? Because you can actually get an attachment from somebody that has absolutely nothing to do with you, but they just thought that you were cool to attach to.
Yeah.
And a lot of times those are not in the demonic or otherworldly way. Not those. I mean, just an asshole who's dead.
And they do exist. There are a number of dead assholes lingering about.
There are a lot of dead assholes lingering about. They were born one, they grew bigger, they died, there's still one.
Yep, unfortunately.
Yes. And women especially need to watch out for that. And a lot of people don't think about that. They don't think about the perv situation.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely true. And I know for a fact. It's absolutely true. And when women start to feel a certain attachment and feel that way and start to have fear for no reason, they really need to go back and retrace their steps mentally and find out what was going on, what were they doing, who could they have come into contact with.
Yeah, there are spiritual predators just like there are, real life predators. So, you always have to be, it's almost like a constant vigilance that you have to have, just to, make sure, no matter where you go, that you're not, grabbing something with you. Because you could have.
And thank you for saying that. Okay?
What?
Because I don't think it was put in the chat yet. You just said it, Mike. One of the quickest ways to get an attachment is you physically from a location.
Yeah.
Don't pick up a rock. Don't pick up, I hate to say it, don't buy something from a fucking haunted gift shop. I'm serious. Just...
Most of the stuff out of haunted gift shops are gimmicks anyway, but I guess you never know.
You just gotta be careful, But it's those things you go to a certain lot. Okay, now I did take graveyard dirt from New Orleans, but those are my peoples.
Yeah. I have a piece of brick from the Gore Orphanage, it's Swift Mansion, which it is really. I have a part of the Goldenrod Showboat, actually a couple. And let's see what else. That ceremonial dagger from a haunted Mason's Lodge. Sorry. Sometimes word escape.
I don't know how I feel about.
Well,
I feel about that one.
I've never felt anything here, and personally, do things and keep myself, at least I believe protected. To me, it always comes down to faith. If you believe in what you are doing will cleanse something, will protect something, will whatever it is you believe, your faith will instill that in there. That's just the way I am. If you're doubtful about it, it's not going to work. And this has nothing to do with religion, although you could throw religion in there if you wanted to. I just believe a personal faith, a personal belief in this is the way it is, this is the way it's going to happen. Boom. Self-fulfilling prophecy. That, when I do something to protect the house, protect myself, it's going to work.
True, but see, you at least make a conscious effort to do that.
Well, yeah.
Me not so much.
Okay.
I'm stubborn. I'm a stubborn cuss. So I don't do that like I should. But I'm getting better because I'm tired of the bruises. So, yeah. So you're absolutely right. If you're making that, I'm actually tearing up in that. We don't know why I'm doing that.
Okay. We have a question from the chat room, Shana. She wants to know: is there a stone or crystal that can be worn that prevents attachments? Since we're just kind of talking about protection and...
Yeah, I have the best luck with obsidian. I really do. Also, unbeknownst to me, and well, I know now why I was led to it, but I didn't know at the time it was happening. Green Baltic amber.
Okay.
Apparently, it stops negative attachments. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I would also say obsidian. I've heard from a number of people that any type of black stone that is worn, and I know Shana does wear a ring with the black stone. I believe it's obsidian. So that is a little protective amulet right there.
So another one, if you can find actual jet.
Yeah, jet's a black stone. Yep.
Yeah, it is. It's more for the
onyx.
witchy people.
Yeah.
Yeah, onyx. Preferably not snowflake.
Well, yeah, because snowflake have the white, so it kind of almost defeats the purpose.
And always, I mean, you're less likely to take an attachment home when you go to a place if you are well nourished after, well hydrated after, and you smudge after. If you do those three things, you're less likely to have an attachment leave with you. Some of the hardest attachments actually to get rid of are children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want somebody to cling to and take care of them. Yeah, and that's really kind of sad.
It's heartbreaking.
Right.
It's absolutely heartbreaking, and those are the ones I mean, honestly, they can stay. I mean, it doesn't bother me. But yeah, I mean, so if you do those things, then 9 times out of 10 you're pretty much going to be okay.
Let me ask you this, because you are not a religious person, as people would more commonly think of religion. What do you think about medallions of the saints, like the medallion of Saint Michael?
I believe, and I'm going to be very blunt and very honest about this, I believe that if you put your faith, regardless of what your religion is or your whatever you focus on as far as the deity goes, again, my whole pack of ketchup, I believe that if you have any object, any piece of jewelry, any medallion, any stone, if you focus enough of your energy onto that as a source of protection, you're good. Yeah. That will help tremendously.
Yeah, so we're on the same page there. It comes down to your faith in a particular whatever it is. You can have your faith in Ghosty. You have all your faith that Ghosty's going to protect you.
Well, and here's the funny thing: I'm as pagan as they come. I am a card carrying, candle burning, witchy pagan. All day long, and I love crosses.
Okay, there you go.
Go figure, right?
Go figure that.
I do. I love them. I absolutely love them. One of these days, I apologize. I keep messing with my hair, but it's driving me crazy. One of these days, I'm going to get the Celtic cross on my back because On this side, I have my trifecta for my pagan symbolism, and I will have the cross, the Celtic cross, on my left shoulder. Like I said, card-carrying witch right here. Love crosses.
And for clarification, Shauna's ring is onyx.
There you go. Yeah, I have Whitby Jet from Whitby, and I have my green Baltic amber, and then I have something a lot of people don't have. This little bad boy right here, you can barely see it. It's a little green stone. It's moldavite, and moldavite isn't a stone. It is actually atmosphere. A comet hit the Moldau Valley about 20 million years ago, or whatever it was, and when it hit that, the air around it crystallized.
Wow.
And these little pieces have been, they're almost all gone now. These little pieces have been taken out of there, and it's one of the few that is actually charged by the sun. Go figure.
Nice. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
So Tammy Heitzman, for clarification, is saying, or asking, so really, it's not primarily the item that protects you, it's the person and their own beliefs/energy. Yes. I would agree with that.
Absolutely. Now, certain stones have certain properties that will help aid in that, but it's just like Mike said, when it comes right down to it, it's how much you put behind it.
Yeah, and I think certain stones call out to certain people as well, or you can feel the energy between the different stones. Because I remember, some years ago when somebody's I'd always loved rocks as a kid and all of that, but I didn't really understand the metaphysical properties of stones until I was much older. And I remember somebody, as an example, putting one stone in my right hand and another stone in my left hand. And you could feel the change when the stone was put in the other hand. All of a sudden there was like a buzzing going on the right hand, and then you took away that stone, you put another one, it would be like a different level of energy. And so
yes.
It's really interesting how the properties of the stones actually work with your body chemistry, with your energy.
Well, and that's what's funny is I have been looking at amber rings for years. And they're always well above my price point, what I can afford. And I had never seen a green one, ever.
Yeah.
Had never seen a green amber. And I didn't even know, to me, amber is orange, right? But not so much. They actually have one called butterscotch. It's almost white. But I saw this one, and when I finally decided to purchase it, I put it on, and my hand wouldn't quit shaking.
Wow.
It was literally, I was just sitting there and it was just vibrating like that. And I looked over at Jan and I said, I have to have it. I have to get this. And then I looked up, or she looked up on the way home from the art festival that we were at. She looked up the different properties of it and what it did. And it was like, boom, mic drop. Somebody knew I needed this thing. Because and she got one too. Every single point that it hit was something that I am in desperate need of right now. Every last freaking point. Down to, no joke, and to not exclude, the Egyptian goddess that it's associated with, this particular color of amber. And considering what I am going to be doing in July in Pennsylvania, and the connections that we found with that, there was no chance this wasn't supposed to happen.
Right.
Divine intervention, y'all.
There you go. Let's talk a little bit about. Okay, so go into an investigation and all kinds of paranormal activity happening. How we go about determining the difference between, okay, there's an attachment to this person, or it's the house that's haunted. The attachment is to the building, to the house. Or maybe it's an object nearby.
It's been my understanding and experience that if the attachment tends to lean towards one person, that one person is the one having the majority of the issues. They're the one being primarily affected. Now, you can have it can leak on to others in the house, but essentially it will be that one person. And there, a place that I went in Virginia, a private residence that we were asked to go to, one of the young children was having most of the experiences. And that's where it got a little spooky, because this particular child was special, as far as being able to feel things and see things and everything else. And everyone else knew something was going on, and they would see little tidbits of it, but it really did circle around him. What was going on the rest of the property didn't, but he really was the focus inside the house.
Okay.
So, I mean, can you say the house is haunted? Sure. But will it be haunted when he leaves? Probably not. Now, the property will. Nothing changing that. I can throw as much juju on that as I want to, and guess what? That shit's not leaving. Okay? It's bad, bad, bad news. But inside the house, that child was the beacon.
Yeah.
And will continue to be so when they go somewhere else.
Yeah, and I've noticed that in a number of cases that we've had where there may be some paranormal activity going on with the house. There may be a residual haunt, or maybe just some older spirit that's been hanging out there that it was their home at one point, and then all of a sudden this one person that lives there gets into the mix, and just all holy hell breaks loose. And you get to talking with them, just kind of going, sitting down, interview, and they start revealing, well, yeah, when I was at, lived at this house, these things happened. When I lived at another house, these things happened. And you start to see a pattern of activity that's not associated with the house that you're investigating, even though there may be some activity there, but all this other stuff that's way above and beyond, is associated with that person. And so you start to discover there's something attached to this person, not the house.
It's ironic that you bring that up, because I was just discussing this with Phil and Julia from the Horseback Chronicles case, because Phil is the beacon.
Yeah.
He is. And I did not know that another place he had lived in had also been haunted or had that activity. And that was kind of when we started to figure out it isn't the place, it's the person. Right. And I was actually able to describe a hidden room in the basement of the house that nobody knows about.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I could see it perfectly and know that he's the one that kind of brings these energies in, whether he means to or not. Same with this young boy that I actually interviewed him off camera, but the audio is on one of BPI's videos. And you can hear him, and you can hear his tale and what he's telling me, and the details that he's giving me, that you're like, this is not made up. But in any shape, form, or fashion, this kid knows exactly what he's telling me.
Right.
Exactly what he's telling me. But ironically enough, for them to both be males, a lot of homes that appear to be haunted, whereas actually personal attachments, are to females. Mostly prepubescent. So,
yeah, that age is really when, especially if they're developing some sort of abilities, is when they start shining as a beacon. It starts getting brighter and brighter and brighter. They're a beacon to the spiritual world, and I'm guessing that's a lot of what you went through.
Yeah. Not fun.
Right.
Not fun. It makes for a second childhood. But yeah, I mean, no light shines brighter than child's, regardless. So, I mean, when you have these capabilities, and I know that Shana will agree with this as well, I mean, your light continues to go as you get older, but nothing will compare to what it's like when you're young. And I think it's a combination of how bright it is, how new it is to you, and how little you know how to deal with it. And they seem to know that.
Yeah.
They will rush you, because I think it's mentally, as a child, you're afraid to say no to an adult. Dead or alive.
Well, yeah, because as a child, I won't say 100% of the time, But in most cases, as children, this larger person who, is probably the person that's been taking care of us for a number of years so far, you've put your trust into that person. So you usually believe, what they're telling you.
Absolutely. This leads us to a tricky thing, though, and what people's abilities and those who don't have them but are acquiring them or just have an interest in it, what they need to be made aware of and watch out for is the negative entities or spirits that can, that I should have got my sunny tea. Damn. They can, not all that attach to you that are children are children.
Well, sure. It could be something masquerading as a child. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that happens a lot. And I've seen it happen to pregnant females. And it's because they know how to play on those emotions.
Since you went there, how can you tell the difference?
You got real tricky. You got to be real tricky because they will slip up. They absolutely will slip up. And you have to think like a child because you have to think about it. They're only speaking like a child. They're not thinking like a child. They have ulterior motives going on. So if you think like a child and find a way to get into a conversation with them and trip them up, you'll know, and you can throw up that block immediately. But one of the reasons I bring this up is I have known women who are pregnant, women who are expecting that still investigate. And I'm not going to ever tell somebody they can't do that. What I am going to tell them is that it makes them 10 times more susceptible to an attachment, especially a negative one. And that's something that I think needs to be put out there, and they need to think about that. Because it isn't just about you anymore. And, you can get an attachment to your unborn baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can. And that's not good. I've actually known people who have miscarried because of that. And then we've actually seen the video footage of these things literally dive bombing her stomach, and 3 days later she miscarried.
I remember you telling me about that. Yeah, that's really sad. Question from the chat room. There's some shit going down in the chat room.
Oh, shit!
And I'll pull out one of the questions from Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast, because the topic there is kind of deviated a little bit from what we're talking about. But I thought this is an interesting question because it does pertain to what we are talking about. And that is, why is it that salt is protective?
Because it's a purifier. Salt's a purifier, as well as charcoal is protected as well, but a particular type of charcoal. But it's salt in its purest form, especially like sea salt, is a purifier. And it's very difficult to have something negative attached to something that's pure like that. There's a substance that's pure. And Tammy made a good point. Yeah, young kids at home, be careful with them if you're out investigating. Anyway.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to bring anything back, to
you don't want to bring nothing back to your kiddo, okay? But, yeah, that's one of the biggest things, like, salt water. We always tell people, if they're having issues in their home, you can use iodized salt, that little one with the little girl with the umbrella. You can use that if you want to, but it's not the same thing. Yeah, what was it, Hortons or?
Morton's.
Yeah. Don't use that one. Get some sea salt, and put it in your water, a little bit of essential oil, whichever one works best for you. Again, I'm a dragon's blood gal, a little witchy woman. Put that in a bottle and spray it everywhere. But that's why you have something that is symbolic of you, which for me is dragon's blood. You have water, which is the essence of life. And then you have salt, sea salt, which is a natural purifier, a natural cleanser. So,
well, let me ask this one then, since we're on all these different things. Why burn sage? Why burn sage? We use that as a protective thing. We'll tell people, when you move into a new house, sage the place down, and we say, it'll put a positive energy into the home. What is it about burning sage?
It's not necessarily just burning sage. It's how you do it. you have to have the windows open, start at one area of the house, and work your way completely around, wafting it into the corners, around the window frames, everything else, and allowing the spirits to travel out with the smoke. And it smells pretty. I mean, you can do sage, you can do lemongrass, you can mix the two together, you can do regular sage, white sage, use a clamshell or a little tin, you know, and a feather, and you waft it out. But it's all about allowing that energy, negative or positive. If you don't want positive in your home, that's all up on you too. But it's about allowing it and giving it a vehicle to leave the home. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, you can go through your house all
I know why we do it, but you know, I mean, we have viewers that may not know.
Yeah, it isn't just what you do, it's how you do it.
Yeah.
You know, and it generally doesn't work too terribly good if after you sage, if you don't protect. So
well, yeah, and there's times when we have to go back multiple times. You know, if we're trying to, you know, cleanse us, if we're trying to get rid of one of those attachments.
Mm-hmm. The main reason I have had to go back to places, and this is one of the reasons why I quit cleansing people's homes, it was fucking pissing me off. I will ask them, are you sure you want it gone? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Do you really want me to put everything I got in this? Please don't fucking waste my time. And, oh yes, Vanessa, get it out of here. We're tired of this. Okay, so I did. And then they start calling this shit back. No sooner do I leave. No.
Yep, I've had that happen before where you cleanse a place, and I don't know if it's just out of curiosity or they just there's maybe something within them that liked having the activity around, and it just
just stop it right there. You hit it.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll draw something else in rather than what they had before.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I don't think that people necessarily want a spiritual attachment, but they want to be able to tell people they do.
Yeah, that could be.
Therein lies a big difference, you know. I mean, it's, you know.
Well, I think part of it is people are just naturally curious, you know, people within our field, people who are, you know, open to the spiritual world, are generally curious about what's out there. So even, okay, get something at home, they don't like it, cleanse it, get it out, you know, they're still curious and they want to know. And so through their own curiosity and screwing around, they inadvertently invite something back in.
Yeah, happens.
It's kind of human nature.
The time.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And I mean, honestly, let's just face it. I mean, really what happens when somebody, you know, like myself or somebody else goes in to cleanse a house, it's not that we're getting really rid of something. We're putting up a barrier where there isn't really interaction anymore. It doesn't necessarily mean that that spirit or entity or whatever it is that's in that home is gone. It just means that we've put up a barrier and there's no longer interaction. Well, all it takes is for Joe Blow to get lonely, decides he needs something to talk about, and boom, barriers down, activities all over the fucking place again. So, you know, it's people really, really, really have to think about what they're willing to live with, you know, and also think about wasting people's time. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there.
Yeah. A couple other things from the chat. Shana makes a point. Negative energy and a ghost/spirit are not always the same thing. Ghost or spirit can be negative, but not always. This is true. I mean, we've interacted with a lot of perfectly fine spirits because they were fine as a human in life. They're fine as their spiritual selves. And then vice versa, where they were an asshole in life, they're an asshole as a spirit. You know.
Well, and also, we've stated this before, sometimes what is perceived as negative interaction is actually miscommunication.
True, that could be as well.
You know, okay, so you got pushed. Think about it. You know, that happened to me at Grace Dew Priory in England. I got pushed. I got pushed by the little boy Michael. But, you know, I'm smart enough to realize he's a little boy. He wasn't being mean. What he was trying to do was get my attention and didn't understand the amount of energy it would take to get it. So when he tried to, like any kid would do, go up, you know, and pat their mom when they hit you at the waist and they pat their mom on the butt to get their mom's attention. He just patted a little harder than I would have liked, and I flew forward, you know. But he was sorry.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't mean to, you know, and I didn't.
Accidents can happen, sure, in the spiritual world as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't keep up with this.
Yeah, there's talking about sage kind of opened up a little bit of a can of worms in the chat room, so let's get into it a little bit here.
Awesome.
We've had some comments that you know, the smell of the sage will repel spirits. There's let's see. Shana saying, I thought sage was about changing the energy vibration, makes it uncomfortable for negative energies. You know, or is it just the intent with what you're trying to do with the sage? Can we get a better defining moment? Because there's a little bit of back and forth about what sage does and doesn't do.
Well, for me, I mean, honestly, one of the things that they would primarily sage with, or cleanse with, or smudge with is a better way to put it.
Smudge, right.
Tobacco. They'd use tobacco. If they didn't have access to sage, they would use tobacco. So it's always been my understanding, and what I have learned these decades, is that it's the vehicle to carry them out. Now, like I said, it's a good smelling. It can change the vibrations of your home, but primarily to change the vibrations of your home, you have to change the vibrations here and here, because we have free will and we forget that. Sure. So it's for me, and I'm not saying that I am right for everybody else, but it has been my understanding that it is the vehicle to allow the spirits to go out. Because it doesn't have to be sage. Like I said, it can be lemongrass, it can be tobacco, it can be anything.
Well, Shana threw out there that she's heard that sweetgrass attracts energy, but again, she's assuming intent guides that as well.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. And I mean, it also depends on who you're calling on when you're calling to remove a spirit from a home. Are you calling upon Native American ancestors? Are you calling upon Celtic ancestors? Who are you summoning to help you do this? Because you're not doing it on your own. You got a string of ancestors behind you. You know, so it really does depend. Intent is a huge part of it.
Well, let's throw this out there. What if what if you're saging down a house? And I've never heard of anybody actually doing this, but if we're talking intent, what if you're smudging a house, you're walking around burning the sage, and you're actually calling upon something negative to come? Would that actually work?
I don't see why not. Because generally it's been my understanding, my experience, what I've had to clean up, is if you call something negative, it's that to them is an engraved invitation. It doesn't matter. You could be, you know, burning sage or cooking chili. It doesn't matter. You know, if you call upon something negative, they're going to come a running. That's like a fucking dinner bell.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, it could definitely happen. I know it has happened, and that's one. It's kind of along the lines of using a Ouija board or you know, or any other type of device. That could happen with my tarot cards. That could happen with a pendulum. Yep. It's all about intent. I choose when I read to draw on the positive energies.
Okay. We have a question from the chat room, slightly off topic, although we could segue into a different type of conversation about spiritual attachments. This is from Christine C. Do you believe you can talk to your family members who have passed through dreams? We've talked a little bit about this in the past, but...
Absolutely. Matter of fact, that's going to be the prime way they contact you. Because your guard is down. You're more likely to accept the fact that they are trying to converse with you. You're not going to be riddled with emotion. You know, if I'm sitting on the couch and Grandpa, who I never got to meet because he passed away before I was born, if he came down and sat right next to me, I might flip a little. Me. This one right here, me,
Yeah.
I might flip. But if he comes to me in my dreams, I'm going to allow that. I'm going to be more comfortable with that. And I mean, I have so many people, I mean, like I said, the messages are just ridiculous. Where they're asking me like, I can't contact my relative. I can't do this. And I'm like, you don't have to, because odds are they've already contacted you.
Right.
Put by the bed, pinned by the bed, get up, within the first 30 seconds, write down everything you remember from your sleep. Everything.
Yeah, I used to keep a dream journal.
Yes.
I don't know what happened to that, but yeah, I used to keep one.
The messages that people will get while they're sleeping are unbelievably profound. You know, and a lot of times it will literally answer all their questions.
Well,
But it's the light of day, emotion, society telling us that we shouldn't, and all these other tiny little factors that tell us you can't talk to your dead relatives because they're dead, or this is the best one, and oh, I've never been so mad. You're going to keep them spiritually bound on this plane.
oh boy, that's a choice.
Shut the hell
It's a
up.
choice to come back and interact with you. You know, because I've had my grandparents interact with me in a dream before. So.
Yes. To me, it is unbearably cruel to tell somebody that they're hurting their dead relatives.
Yeah, because we have very limited knowledge of what it's like on the other side. I mean, you know, we're talking about it now, but really a lot of what we're talking about is theory and speculation. It's like,
Absolutely.
you know, it's like we're talking about like we know, but we have this little disclaimer out there that's like, you know, our opinions are subject to change as we find more information.
We can only speak from our experiences. So this is what I ask someone when they tell me, you can't talk to ghosts because you're keeping them bound on this plane and you're causing them damage. You know what I ask them? Prove it.
Yeah, yeah.
I dare you.
Well, since we were having a conversation about, you know, relatives coming, visiting, you know, during the night, in dreams, all that, what about negative attachments at night? You know, people will talk about, you know, we'll go with the night hag. You know, the whole, where we get the whole hag-ridden term from, where people are having night terrors, and you know, maybe they're waking up in the middle of the night and they actually see the hag sitting on their chest, but they're, you know, it's a you know, something that you know, perpetual. What is the term? Reoccurring.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's a reoccurring dream, or maybe it's a reoccurring phenomenon that they're having this actual spiritual attack almost on a nightly basis.
Well, I mean, just like with good communication during dreams, your guard is down. You're going to have the same situation with that. You know, and anything can see that door kick open. So if you're finding yourself having difficulty with that, if you're finding yourself being more attacked in your dreams than having conversation, then you need to protect yourself. You know, you can stipulate, and I'm sitting here and I'm going to tell you this, and I still don't do it. So, but I already know what I'm asking for. But you can stipulate what you will and will not allow when it comes to communication. And that's what I tell people. I actually taught my son when he was younger, because, you know, he's very much like his mama. And I actually taught him to shield himself when he was little. You know, because he was having difficulties at night, and I taught him how to climb inside a big purple balloon that only Mama could get into.
Nice.
And it worked. It worked. I said, you climb into it, you blow it up, and the only other person who knows the way in is Mama.
There you go.
And it worked like a charm. So I guess it's akin to, you know, I'm sure you've seen that video or the whatever where the doctor prescribes Ghost Be Gone.
I haven't seen that, no. Ghost Be Gone.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah, it's a little spray bottle. And, you know, and the kid or the mom or the dad sprays it all around his room, you know, and he knows it works. But it works because he makes it work.
Because he believes. It's a placebo effect. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So that's my balloon. It's Ghost Be Gone.
There you go. A couple comments from the chat room. Joanne Rubino says, my mom comes into my dreams and I talk to her in my dreams. Awesome. So another, confirmation of that happening. So you're not crazy. You're not alone. It happens. It happens to a lot of people.
Oh, I'm crazy, darling.
Yeah. And she didn't say that, but just for those that, that come watching and are curious and, they're like, am I crazy for this, thing, for these things happening, for me to see this? You're not crazy. Down at Bucksbaum says, even pets can visit through dreams. Yep, we've had Rob Gutcher on here talk about that a few different times. And let's see what else we have. I know there was something else I think from Ether Shadow. Question. Has anybody noticed when you smudge with sage, whatever, that someone will have strange or bad dreams after that are involved?
I have not run into that. But I don't smudge like I should. So, my dreams, I'm fair game.
I think, not about dreams, but I guess what I've seen in the past with something sticky, when asked to cleanse a home, and there's something particularly insistent on staying there, you smudge the house, and it's fine for like a day or two, maybe a week, but then all of a sudden it comes back even stronger. Or basically it's like you've pissed the thing off, and when it is finally able to come back, it decides to be more of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that absolutely happens.
Yeah.
I still liken that to people saying, yes, I want it gone, and then deciding they don't.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I don't have enough fingers or toes to count how many times I've seen that be the case. And it's unfortunate, I mean, like I said, it's not that we can make something go away forever, but you can put up a wall to block communication. You can do that. That is possible. But everybody has to be on the same page. And, one person in the family can't still want to talk to it, can't still want to interact with it.
Yeah, it's kind of, I hate to use this analogy, but it's kind of like Ghostbusters. Everybody clears their mind except Ray, who thinks of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. But it's true. It's true. If one is calling it back or is still wanting to, explore that route with that spirit or with spirits in the home, then you're going to have it come up, even if the other ones are. There may be a battle back and forth between wills. The others may be trying to keep it pushed out, and the other one keeps trying to bring it back in, and now you've got this struggle going on, the spiritual struggle that you might not necessarily see, but is going on. We lost Vanessa. Is that your dog?
Nope.
No, Ralph. What's going on?
I'm on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll move on.
There you have it.
No, you're absolutely right though. And it's just one of those things. I get it. I get that to a certain degree it's cool. I get that it's interesting to talk about because, look at us. Fuck, we do it every week, What I don't get is when it's negative, when it's excessively negative. And it seems, it's almost like being in an abusive relationship. You want to stop it, but then again, you kind of get attention from it, or it's like Munchausen's by paranormal activity. I don't know. It's something along those lines where the rush you get from it supersedes the danger that it's causing other people in your household. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of where I get a little bit pissed off about it. Especially, if there's kids involved or something, it pisses me off.
Yeah, Scott Latea saying he had 3 different psychics reach out to him after returning from Pinhurst to have the house cleansed and had him take a salt bath, and refused to get off of Skype until he did it. So,
Wow.
that's a heck of a attachment from Pinhurst. I was also there at Pinhurst and didn't get that. So, well, again, we're talking salt. So Vanessa, taking a bath in salt. I mean, that's, I guess, a protective layer over the body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They actually say, in all honesty, if you can do that before and after, that you're less likely to carry home an attachment. It's not very convenient. For us ladies who have to shave our legs, it can hurt like a bitch.
Oh, sure.
Okay, it really can. It can hurt. I ain't about that kind of pain. But
now I'm gonna be a little silly here, but it's kind of a legit question.
What?
The body, when we sweat, produces salt. Could you go run down the block, work up a sweat, have a layer of salt on you from that, and then be okay?
You would like to think so.
Just asking.
But I had about 20 of them in me carrying my happy ass down a driveway going about 30 miles an hour. So, I mean, yeah, and I mean, I'm not a runner like that no more, Mike.
Yeah.
But tell you what, I was Jackie Joyner Kersey that night. I was hauling ass.
Yeah.
Okay. It was impressive, but I mean, you could say yes, but then again, your intent kind of isn't the same.
Mm-hmm.
But you bring up a very good point. Sometimes you do have to get your adrenaline going a little bit in order to help force them out, because if you are doing any type of strenuous physical activity like that, your pancreas is working harder, it's producing more insulin, it's keeping your blood sugar level, but you've also got to make sure that you've got the nourishment and the water and everything else, or something to drink thereafter. You have to find that balance. They're less likely to attach to you if you are, like I said, fed, watered, like a dog, fed and watered, and if you just use your energy and whatever you have at your disposal to cleanse yourself and center yourself.
Yeah. Donna Bucksbaum makes a good point here. You can say what you want, all you want, but if you genuinely have even one shred of doubt or question, then the attempt is futile. And
Yep.
You have to have a faith, an absolute faith in what it is that you're doing for that to work.
Exactly. I can't take an attachment off of you if you don't want it gone.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe I can do it. It's just like healing, telepathic healing. You have to, and I've done this for other people, you have to believe I can do it. And you have to believe that you're willing to receive it in order for it to work. Now, I've done that for Gwen. I did that for Abby in England for her eye surgery. I actually got my ass up at 2 a.m. and waited throughout her entire eye surgery, meditating for her to come out of it. But she believed in it. I mean, so it's the same situation if you're talking about, whether you're talking about long distance healing, whether you're talking about cleansing or getting rid of an attachment. Donna's right. You can't have one shred of doubt.
Right.
Right. And I'm willing to use myself as an example. I won't get rid of Ralph completely because I'm not quite certain what his purpose is yet.
And you're trying to discover that.
Yes.
Okay.
So if he stays focused on me, he's not messing with anybody else.
Point taken. Got a question here from Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast. Completely off topic, but still related to investigating the paranormal. He wants me to ask why spirits drain your batteries, but yet there are wall outlets in the house with electricity. Why don't they just hang up on the wall outlet?
Well, a lot of times you'll hear them in the walls, you'll hear different things like that. But you have to look at it this way: anytime you're talking about them draining batteries, they're also draining you You're right there. You're holding this battery operated thing. You're wanting them to come to you. You're wanting them to talk to you. You're wanting them to speak into this little green light. Okay? So they're in closer proximity to you. It's not uncommon to have lights flicker. It's not uncommon if you have one person inside and one person outside. It's not uncommon to see weird activity around your meter. I've seen that myself, to see it either slow completely down or speed up super fast. So they do. It's just easier and more centrally located to go after a device. Now,
here's my take on it. Here's my take on it. I don't think they realize that they're draining your batteries. I don't think that in their spiritual mind that they're thinking, I need energy to manifest. I mean, that's the terms that we always use as paranormal investigators, that they're trying to manifest and need energy. I don't think they're thinking that shit at all. I think that they're just trying to communicate. They're not using the word manifest. They're not thinking, there's batteries. I want to use batteries to make myself manifest. Just like all this crap about how, well, if I manipulate this device and do this and this and this and this. No, they're not thinking that. And, we may even try to explain, well, there's this device that uses words, and if you get into this device, manipulate it somehow, they're just trying to communicate. They're trying to talk. That's, how in their human form they did things. That's how they know how to do things. Maybe they're even trying to use their mind a little bit, but they're not thinking, this is my take, okay, in my opinion. They're not thinking, I'm going to take, batteries and drain them so that I have energy. Because otherwise it could just, I'll stick my finger in the, other side. I'll stick my finger in the wall outlet and, and get a buzz and keep charged. I don't think they're thinking that shit at all.
I think you're onto something. I actually never looked at it that way, and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Now, I told you about this. I want to say it was at the end of the last show. I can't remember, but Dave Newton.
Well, I will say I think it happens just because they're by you and trying to communicate, and it just happens. That's okay. That's me wrapping it up. Go ahead.
Dave Newton with MP Paranormal out of England, he had something happen to him on their last investigation I've never seen before. And I'm on live stream with them. I'm reading for them right there, and I'm communicating through WhatsApp with them too. And his phone, when they were there less than an hour, it drained down to 11%. So they got off live stream.
Yeah.
He called me 2 minutes later and he goes, "You're not going to believe this." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "It's back up to 38%.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't happen.
You see crazy stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, that does not happen. Your phone will not recharge itself, okay? Without an outlet, without plugging it into your car or something. It just won't do it. And his did. And that is one of the freakiest things I've ever heard of. Now I have another one. This is a shocker. So I was talking to somebody, and they have one of those Alexa things, okay? And I was talking to my friend Jay, and they have one of those Alexa things. And stop it. And and we're
in the middle of a show.
Huh?
We're in the middle of a show.
Yeah. No, we were talking on the phone.
Okay.
And decided to go ahead and we were talking about Alexa and wanted to ask her one of those questions. And so he asked her, he said, "Alexa, are ghosts real?" And she then made her little bleep, and then she gave the definition of ghosts. And then said something that we have not been able to get her to repeat. She said, "And that is eerily familiar." This little robot thing, and we have asked in probably 20 different ways to get her to do that again, and she will not do it. But she gave the definition of ghost and then said, "And that is eerily familiar."
Interesting.
What the fuck is that about? It's a robot telling us that ghosts are eerily familiar.
It's funny. Sometimes those things will just kick up out of nowhere and give you an oddball response. So I've heard of Siri on iPhone, just in the middle of a group of friends were having a party. I wasn't there for this, but they told me the story. And they're just sitting there laughing, having a good time. And of course, occasionally dropping, the F-bomb or whatever, and somebody's iPhone kicked up, it was Siri, and said, I don't appreciate that type of language.
What? Okay.
So, weird stuff happens, yeah. So,
let's take this one step further. What if that wasn't Siri?
Maybe it wasn't Siri. If you happen to have a spirit that knows how to speak as Siri through an iPhone.
Well, think about it. How hard would that be? All they have to do is put the words in. It's going to come out sounding like her.
Well, again, you're assuming that a spirit would have to know how to manipulate an iPhone to do that. I don't know. I work in the computer industry for a living. Have been for 25 years. I wouldn't know how to just right now make Siri do that. But we have to somehow. A spirit is going to do that. I mean, maybe they see things differently on the other side. Maybe they don't see this as an iPhone. Maybe they see it as a megaphone. I don't know.
or maybe let's really jump down that rabbit hole. Or maybe where they're at now is more technologically advanced than where we are. And it's nothing to them.
Maybe that other side has all kinds of crazy technology that we're not aware of.
Yeah, I jumped, didn't I?
There you go.
Right down that hole.
Well, it is the top of the hour. We got started a little bit late, and so I, of course, let it go a little bit longer because we've been talking about doing longer shows anyways. But I figure it's 11 o'clock East Coast, so we should probably wrap it up.
Yeah. This was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Very interactive in the chat room. Really appreciate all the Mad Hatters out there and all their comments and questions. Pretty lively chat. Some debate back and forth. Really appreciate that. So, and for those Mad Hatters that are out there that haven't yet, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell for notifications. You'll get updated when we have other videos that come out, and of course you'll get updated when Edge of the Rabbit Hole comes on. So let's go ahead and give some shout outs to our Mad Hatters. Here you guys are. There's the chat room. It's going to pop up. It's going to pop up, and there it is. There you guys are.
It's a long chat.
Yep. So here we go. I want to thank Tammy Sifford, all your support. Andrew Cox, thank you for all your comments, and he's always talking to Goldenrod. So still, please support the Goldenrod. I know it's not in a very positive place right now, but if you can, please. And that GoFundMe is actually still active. Scott Latea, thank you for coming out and joining us. Lynn's White, thank you always. Robert White, thank you from Australia, hanging out with us. 1 p.m. again. He's 1 p.m. down there, which is awesome. It's his afternoon and it's our evening. Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast was that. I don't know if that's Aaron or Britt. Sometimes it's Britt, sometimes it's Aaron. Cool. And yeah, thank you for your questions tonight. Ether Shadow, thank you as well for your questions and comments. Angels Hoosier Nook, thank you for joining us tonight. Carrie Parrish, always thank you for your comments. Of course, I have to thank Shauna. I mean, what am I doing? I'm supposed to start with Shauna. Shauna, our chat Shananigator. Thank you, my love, for always stirring up the chat. Christine C., thank you for the question you had earlier, for joining us tonight. Who else we got? Tammy Heitzman, thank you. Joanne Rubino, thank you. Who else do we have? Donna Bucksbaum, thanks for joining us again tonight. Sean from Ectovision Paranormal. Go check out Ectovision Paranormal's YouTube. They've got some great videos out there. Very well done. Very professional cinematography. Diane Hilbert, thank you for joining us. Yes, they were talking Beetlejuice earlier that we missed.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Chalked for not 3 times.
Yep. So, and I think that is going to wrap it up for now. I know there are other people that were in here earlier, but I'd have to scroll way up, and I'm not going to scroll all that distance up. But thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Hopefully next week we'll have the t-shirts available. I will let everybody know when they come in. I did get notification over the weekend that they were shipping today. So hopefully the t-shirts, I mean it's a local place. It's it's really about half an hour down the road from me. So I can't expect it'll take too long to get here. Yeah. So, and then of course we have Ghosty. If you haven't already got your Ghosty, go ahead and get your Ghosty. So, and also another thing that we're looking at doing was, maybe working a little bit with Patreon and doing some different reward levels and things like that. We'll look into some things like that. But they have a very, very cool system that I know a lot of YouTubers are going with. So we'll look into that as well. So we're trying to introduce a lot of different things to reward all of you fantastic people, all of our fans, the Mad Hatters that have been coming out here and joining us. You guys are absolutely fantastic, and we do appreciate it. So more things on the way.
Yeah. Love you guys.
All right. So we're going to wrap it up. I'm Mike Ricksecker. This is Vanessa Hogle. We've got Shana, our chat Shananigator, down there. So everybody have a good night.